So, when I was preparing for today, the first thing I was thinking about were what we call sort of all the uns, uncertainty, unknowing, unbelievable, unclear, unpredictable, uneasiness, unanticipated, unfamiliar, unacceptable, and unprecedented. There are just so many uns that we have to cope with right now. Things that there was no way for any of us to be prepared for, us as parents to be prepared for, and nothing really your kids could ever have done to really be ready for something like this. Before I talk about the challenges, which we all know caused by the pandemic in terms of kids and sports, there's been some really actual bright lights that have come from the work that I've been doing over the last basically year, right, since the pandemic happened. For some young sports kids and adults that we work with, this has been an opportunity for them to sort of take a look at their mental game. And it could be to take a look at their mental game in terms of how to get ready for when a season eventually happens for them. They've known that their weakest part of their game has been the mental part of their game. And they've come into the office to talk to Lauren or myself and said, maybe this is the time I finally deal with something that I haven't dealt with before. The other bright light that seems to have come that we've seen is that for some kids, they realize that they're going to have to figure out what life without sport is going to look like for them, because at some point there's going to be life without, I don't mean life without sports, period, but life without the competitive sports, and that they needed to figure out who they are beyond just being a basketball player or a shot putter or a lacrosse player, and have used this time to kind of reassess their identity, to take a look at what matters to them, what's important to them beyond playing the game. And those conversations have been, I think, wonderful for these young people, wonderful for their parents to see that there's more than just the game to get ready for. There's life. And you might be interested too, just in terms of the Olympic level athletes that we work with. For some, the pausing of the Olympic Games turned out to be a blessing because they were injured, and they weren't going to be ready if it was 2020. And now they find that they have an opportunity in 2021 to compete or hopefully make the team, and the time and the extra time has given them an ability to sort of refocus, heal up, and get ready for their big competitions, which are coming up, as we speak, to get ready for the Summer Olympic Games. So there's been some surprising, and I'm sure in your family too, there's been some surprising bright lights. I know in our family, while it's sometimes felt like way too much time together when everyone was home, it also led us to spend some real quality time together that we otherwise wouldn't have. One of the first things that happened in my house, I have 3 daughters who are college age, was they took out the Wii, which was in our basement, dusty, and hadn't been used since they were young. And the next thing you knew, that we were doing Dance Revolution in the living room, and they hooked it up and doing Mario Kart, and just sort of like some silliness and some fun ensued that I know otherwise wouldn't have happened, and some time that we got to spend together and have been spending together that has brought us much closer. And so, again, just to focus a little bit on the blessings. But there's no doubt about it, the uncertainty for the kids who are, and parents whose lives revolve around their sport, there's been terrible loss and really terrible grief, because it's not just in some cases the loss of sport. It could be the fear or the loss of a loved one, a loss of a job, a loss of income, certainly a loss of routine. In some cases, maybe a mental health kind of loss, if you will, which we'll talk about, the toll is taken on people's mental health. So there has been a lot of grief and a lot of loss and an unbelievable amount of disruption. And it's put a heavy burden on parents because parents are feeling the losses, if not more than their kids. And it's put obviously a stress on entire families. And so Lauren and I, like others in the community, other professionals in the community, have been busy trying to support people and help buoy them during this really difficult time. Um, uh, we have seen kids and families develop a lot of resilience, um, in that the kids who couldn't go out and play with their teams have maybe found other sports or other activities or other things to focus on. They've developed new hobbies, new ways of sort of being athletic, um, without being competitive necessarily, because they really couldn't, or being competitive with themselves. We've found coaches. I guess I keep focusing on the positive here. You could see what I do for a living. I found coaches doing wonderful jobs. We talk with so many coaches around the country and locally, and who ask for advice and help. How can I support my team? I still want us to be a team, even though we're not together, and even though we can't even, high five each other. How can we continue to be a team? Coaches have developed little inter-team challenges, which could be about sit-ups or push-ups. Or the other thing I guess we've seen in the really positive light is, all the pandemic, during the pandemic, of course, there's been an enormous amount of social change in the country. And I know I could speak for Lauren. We have been utterly impressed by how some teams we work with have taken on these causes, um, and put their energy into causes that matter to them, whether it's Black Lives Matter or some other cause. That's just one example. And have found another purpose other than just trying to figure out how to, beat the other team or get more playing time. They found other purposes around raising money, building awareness, campus-wide or team-wide. And it's been amazing to watch the resilience of the kids, and the teams and the coaches we've worked with, who have had to pivot and still create for their team a sense of unity and a sense of togetherness. Has been really impressive. On the other hand, the anxiety and depression levels, which you don't need to hear from us, you just need to watch the news, has been exploding. It was already exploding before the pandemic. It's now worse. Counseling centers are struggling to keep up with the demands. The loss of sport. Kids don't know where to channel their frustrations. They're missing their teammates. They're missing their social connectedness of the team. And as all of you know, because you've heard people talk about it before, they don't miss as much, the wins and the losses as they do the locker room and the bus rides and the team dinners and the silly, stupid stuff that happens before and after practice. There's been a lot, and that has spiked a lot of kids feeling, lost and feeling depressed and scared, and anxious. And for those who are in high school or worrying about recruiting, we've seen a lot of kids come to us fearful that they otherwise would have been felt like they would have been recruited at a certain school, but now they can't show their stuff because their seasons are gone. And what does that mean for them? What does it mean for all the hard work they've put in? It can be quite scary for them to know how to navigate it. The other thing that I wrote down is that some of you know I work a lot in this area, which I call mind chatter. So all this stuff has contributed to an inordinate amount of mind chatter. And mind chatter, what I mean by that is the conversations that we have with ourselves that are full of doubt and second guessing and negativity. And needless to say, there's been a lot of mind chatter because the stakes are really high. There's so much uncertainty, and people have been stuck at home, and forced to kind of deal with family members more than they ever wanted to, forced to deal with roommates in colleges, sometimes more than they've ever wanted to. They don't have that shared sport experience, and so there's a lot of pressure, to make it work in a way that you didn't have to make it work before. And the last thing I'll say on this note is just for parents, I'm a parent too. So normally when you're a psychologist, or most of the time when your clients are coming and talking to you, you're trying to empathize with and really get where they're coming from and trying to put yourself in their shoes. This is one of those experiences where we're wearing the same shoes that you are. We're going through this at the same time in real time as you are. Um, we're trying to figure out how to stay motivated. We're trying to figure out um, what's going to give us a sense of purpose, how to adjust to the fact that we can't see family members as much as we otherwise would. So for parent stress, and maybe there'll be some questions out there this morning, about how to manage the stress. I know that I haven't meditated as much as I have during now. I've never journaled as much as I have during this pandemic. Um, I have found I have needed to take better care. I've had to take extra care of myself um, to keep my head on straight so I can be available to my kids, to my clients. And I've had to make sure I really practice everything that I preach, keeping a routine. Lauren and I, that's something we talk a lot about, keeping a routine, whether it's an exercise routine, a work play routine, finding ways to connect with people somehow, even if you can't connect with them in person.